A long-awaited roadmap out of political limbo in Tunisia. President Kais Saied calls for a constitutional referendum to be held in July, exactly a year to the day after he seized sweeping powers. The British Prime Minister braces for backlash as Parliament debates new coronavirus restrictions. It comes a day after the UK confirms what's believed to be the first death from the Omicron variant. We'll get the latest from Bénédicte Paviot in London. And Paris unveils plans for what it calls the most spectacular and accessible opening ceremony in Olympics history. It will see athletes float down the Seine River on a fleet of ships. It's good to have you with us here on France 24. I'm Alison Sargent in Paris. Now, last July, as Tunisia marked a national holiday, the president, Kais Saied, suspended parliament, dismissed his government, and assumed executive authority. The move cast doubt on the democratic gains Tunisia has made since its 2011 revolution. In a speech on national television on Monday, Saied announced a much-awaited roadmap out of that political uncertainty. Olivia Bizot has the details.
Kais Saied. He's the president of Tunisia and will remain so until at least the end of next year.
تنظم انتخابات تشريعية إن شاء الله تعالى وفق القانون الانتخابي الجديد يوم 17 من شهر ديسمبر.
Elections to restore a semblance of democracy. Last July, Kais Saied suspended parliament and dismissed the prime minister, consolidating power for himself. Laying out the timeline for his proposed path out of the country's political limbo, Saied also announced a 3-month popular consultation ahead of a constitutional referendum in July 2022.
تنظيم استشارة شعبية بداية من الفاتح من شهر جانفي القادم.
Since this summer, thousands of people have been demonstrating throughout the country for a return to democracy.
Jusqu'à nos jours, on n'a pas vu une mesure vers résoudre les problèmes économiques et sociaux des Tunisiens. On n'a vu que violation aux libertés.
Tunisia has had 9 governments since its 2011 revolution, many of them short-lived or fractured. Deep-rooted problems of unemployment and crumbling state infrastructure that were behind the uprising have never been resolved. COVID-19 has only made things worse, fueling long-standing public frustration.
The British Prime Minister is gearing up for a showdown with his own party this Tuesday as Parliament votes on a new set of coronavirus restrictions. Boris Johnson proposed the measures along with an ambitious vaccine booster drive in response to the spread of the new variant. On Monday, the UK reported what is thought to be the very first death caused by Omicron. Well, for more, we can cross to London and speak to our correspondent, Bénédicte Paviot. Bénédicte, can you tell us more about the measures being debated in Parliament today and why they're so controversial?
Yes, indeed. Well, these are measures that were announced by the British Prime Minister in a hastily arranged press conference last Wednesday. In fact, some of the new rules have come into force already yesterday. Others will be coming in tomorrow. So we've got a Commons debate this afternoon, and we have possibly got the biggest rebellion that Boris Johnson will have faced since he became Prime Minister. Why? Because 70 MPs in his own governing party, the Conservative Party, are saying that they will not vote for some of these measures. So we understand there'll be 3 or 4 votes this afternoon. And the most really contentious of them, although the Prime Minister says that the rules that he has wanted and announced to be stricter rules because of the COVID pandemic in England, he says they're proportionate. That is not the view of the 60 or 70 so Tory rebels who, as I said, will not be supporting the government. And it's the introduction of a COVID pass that is proving very, very controversial here. That COVID pass would ensure that someone can enter a large venue if they can prove they are fully vaccinated or have a negative lateral flow test. So we'll follow that debate. We'll see the votes later on, but we do expect that vote and those laws to be confirmed and passed and green-lighted by MPs. Why? Thanks to, in fact, the votes of the main opposition party, the Labour Party, a very uncomfortable situation for the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, if that indeed is the case later today.
And Benedict, in addition to those measures, the government has also accelerated its vaccination drive, and there's been a pretty big response from the public, hasn't there?
Well, when you tell a population, get boosted now, that is a very clear message. Go get your third vaccine now. You'll expect people probably, and that has been the case here, of real adherence to getting vaccination, to hit the phones, get online, and that's exactly what people did within hours of the announcement and the address to the nation on Sunday evening of Boris Johnson. Let's remember there's a real context here as far as the Omicron virus. We expect that variant. We expect that to become dominant later today in London. It was 40% yesterday, but it's doubling every 2 to 3 days. It is said to become dominant across the United Kingdom in the next few days. 54,661 new coronavirus cases were reported on Monday, 38 deaths within 28 days of a positive test, and more Omicron cases. So that is a source of concern. Problems with getting masks, which you can get free. That website was crashing and people were having difficulty. And in fact, the website temporarily was suspended due to the high demand. Long queues across England yesterday, ranging from 1 hour to 5 hours, whether people had booked already successfully or were going to what are called walk-in centres. So pharmacists, GPs, and the National Health Service are under huge pressure to deliver the 1 million jabs a day if the Prime Minister is to get his wish and to get all adults, all people aged over 18 vaccinated with that booster before the 31st of December.
All right, Benedict Pavio, thank you very much for that update from London. You'll, of course, be following that debate in the Commons for us throughout the day. Meanwhile, China has reported its first case of the Omicron variant. Officials in the northern port city of Tianjin confirmed the case in someone who had entered the country from an undisclosed overseas location. The patient was asymptomatic but tested positive for COVID-19 on Thursday before further tests confirmed that it was the new variant. China has slowed its number of new virus cases to a trickle and is on high alert for potential outbreaks as it prepares to host the Beijing Winter Olympics in February. In the U.S. state of Kentucky, the toll of damage from Friday night's tornadoes is becoming increasingly clear. At least 74 people killed in the state alone, a toll that jumps to 88 when you include the surrounding region. Well, in Kentucky, the search for those still missing continues, and residents could be left for weeks without heat, water, and electricity. Brian Quinn has the latest.
Ground zero for one of the most devastating storms in state history. In Mayfield, Kentucky, the damage is such that no one expects the town to recover on its own, so volunteers have come from far and wide to lend a hand. Amid the destruction, moments of relief. 8 people lost their lives when this candle factory was flattened. Dozens more, though, were feared buried amid the rubble. Its owners now say all employees are accounted for. Mayfield's mayor says critical infrastructure is destroyed, but that her town will rebuild.
It's not going to be easy. It's not going to happen tomorrow. But I can swear to you that the city of Mayfield will survive this. That's the type of people we are. And we will survive.
Tens of thousands of homes and businesses across Kentucky remain without water or electricity after 5 tornadoes swept through the state Friday night. Thousands of residents have been left homeless.
That's my house.
Governor Andy Beshear says the health impact will not be limited to physical injuries.
The
The trauma is going to impact first responders, those that have been down there trying to help. It is very, very, very real.
While it was the worst hit, Kentucky is not alone. More than a dozen people were killed in other storm-hit states, with tornadoes reported Friday across Arkansas, Illinois, Missouri, Mississippi, and Tennessee as well. President Joe Biden has already approved federal emergency funding for Kentucky, Tennessee, and Illinois. He plans to travel to the affected areas on Wednesday to view the damage firsthand.
Well, staying in the United States, a Senate committee is warning of serious flaws in the safety approval process for new airplanes. This is part of an investigation into oversight by the Federal Aviation Administration after the two deadly crashes involving Boeing's 737 MAX. Our business editor, Stephen Carroll, is here with more. Stephen, what exactly does this report say?
So it's been looking at evidence given by whistleblowers from Boeing, from its supplier General Electric, and from engineers who work for the FAA about how the safety regulator gives a green light for new planes to be approved. None of them come out well out of this report, it has to be said. The report says that the FAA's oversight certification process has eroded and that the agency over time has increasingly delegated away its authority. These are claims that we've heard again and again during the investigation into those two crashes of the 737 MAX, that the FAA was too close to Boeing when it came to certifying its planes. Whistleblowers describing to senators conflicts of interest in the process, which they say the company is carrying out some of the certification process on behalf of the regulator. That includes things like engineers preparing equipment to be tested and then carrying out the tests for the regulator as well. The whistleblowers also warning of safety problems that were ignored during the development of the 737 MAX and the 787 Dreamliner. The report says that, for example, the software that was central to those crashes of the 737 MAX, in which more than 300 people died, that software didn't receive proper scrutiny from the FAA because the FAA didn't have the expertise to be able to examine it.
This seems like pretty damning stuff, Stephen. What has the response to this been?
So the chair of the committee, Senator Maria Cantwell, wrote to the head of the FAA and asked him to address these concerns raised by these whistleblowers and to make changes as a result. The agency says that it does take all of these allegations very seriously and it does not tolerate retaliation against those who raise safety concerns, because that was something else that came up in the whistleblower testimony as well. Boeing, for its part, says that it's reviewing the details, but that many of the issues that have been raised have been publicised previously, it says, and have already been addressed. It does come, though, at a very delicate time for the plane maker. This is a time when demand for planes is being renewed after that pandemic slump as travel has increased, and the company's already faced massive scrutiny over the 737 MAX scandal, both from Congress but from regulators around the world as well. At the start of this year, Boeing agreed a settlement with the US Department of Justice worth over $2.5 billion. That includes payments to victims worth almost $1.8 billion and $500 million for a fund for their families. The company estimates the crashes in total have cost them almost $19 billion. This report, just a reminder, though, that this scandal is not over for Boeing. One of the whistleblowers was a high-ranking engineer at the company. His casting doubt in the company's safety procedures now, 3 years on from the crisis, leaves still some questions for Boeing to answer.
Yeah, bad news for Boeing, and then it makes you wonder about all airplanes out of the U.S. Indeed. Stephen Carroll, our business editor, thank you very much for that. And finally, from us, picture this: a fleet of boats carrying athletes from over 200 countries floating through the heart of Paris as crowds watch for free from the bridges and banks of the Seine. Well, that is the big kickoff that organizers have planned for the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris. Peter O'Brien tells us more.
Paris 2024 is breaking traditions and tearing down stadium walls. 2017 gave us a hint of what was to come when an armada of sports fans descended on the River Seine as part of the city's bid to host the Games. And on the 26th of July 2024, 10,000 athletes will board more than 160 boats for an open-air opening ceremony unlike anything the Olympics has seen before.
Paris 2024 essaie de repenser les Jeux, de voir comment notre pays est capable d'organiser des Jeux exceptionnels qui rendent fiers les Français. Cette cérémonie d'ouverture, elle doit être le symbole de cette ambition de jeux différents, de jeux créatifs, de jeux spectaculaires, de jeux populaires.
The Olympic opening ceremony is typically watched by more than 1 billion people around the world. Paris's edition will have an audience of 600,000 along a 6-kilometre stretch of the river dotted with historic monuments. The show will feature holograms on the water, dancers on the roofs, and aerial displays. Yet to be announced are the security measures which will ensure the safety of the vast spectacle and where exactly the Olympic flame will be set alight. There's one obvious choice, and it's rather tall and pointy.
That's it from us here in the newsroom for now, but thank you for watching and do stay tuned.
Hand in hand, Fanny and Patrick returned for the first time to the place they once called home. Buried under the solidified lava, the house they lived in for 17 years. 17 years swept away in an instant.
I see a small fence in the distance. That's how I recognize my house. It was our neighbor's fence. But I can't see my house anymore. It's covered by the lava. The volcano's taken everything.
That night, Fanny was working in her shop. Her husband, Patrick, was at home with their 7 children when suddenly the sky burst into flames. Lava poured down the sides of the volcano at 100 kilometers per hour, destroying everything in its path. Horrified and confused, Patrick and the children waited until the last minute to flee.
When I saw my house go up in flames, I almost lost my balance. My head was spinning. I realized that my life was turning into a nightmare. All around me, the neighbors were going crazy.
Fanny, Patrick and their children took refuge in the nearby town of Sake. They've since returned to Goma, moving into this one-bedroom house. But the family is struggling to move on.
When I think about the volcano, I know that it can erupt at any time. I'm scared. The eruption has left a wound in my heart. I'll never forget it.
Like Fanny, some 2 million people live in the ominous shadow of Mount Nyiragongo. Standing at 3,470 meters above sea level, it's one of the most active and dangerous volcanoes on Earth. Its crater holds the world's largest permanent lava lake, which threatens to overflow at any time. In 1977 and 2002, the lake emptied in just minutes. This time again, experts failed to predict the eruption.
We didn't expect it so soon. We expected an eruption in the coming years because the risk had been increasing. The amount of lava inside the crater had increased. But we weren't ready for it to happen within days or months. We still have a lot to learn. We were clearly wrong.
Scientists, every new eruption is an opportunity to better understand the volcano's behavior. Dario Tedesco and a team of international researchers map out and monitor the new cracks that have formed around Goma.
This is a device we use to measure the flow of CO2 in the soil. We make these measurements all along the crack to see if there's carbon dioxide coming out of it.
Each crack is a potential opening for lava flows. By making these measurements on a regular basis, the researchers hope to identify new warning signs that could help predict future eruptions.
We measure the pressure. We measure the temperature inside the crack. With all this data, we can have a rough idea of when the next eruption is going to happen. It's not easy to say the exact date, but at least we can tell if the danger is there.
Getting to know Nyiragongo better is the difficult mission of the state-controlled Goma Volcano Observatory, or the OVG. In the aftermath of the latest eruption, it was blamed for not raising the alarm quickly enough. Yet, according to its director, so little is known about this volcano that its warning signs are too difficult to even spot.
Our volcano is unlike other volcanoes in the sense that we only have documented the 3 most recent eruptions. There is still much to learn, and it will take time before we can understand or even predict an eruption.
If the volcano has so far been understudied, does the OVG have the capacity to unlock its secrets? Down in the seismology department, Jean-Pierre Arsène watched for earthquakes that could indicate the movement of magma.
Here we have a map that shows the epicenters of the most recent earthquakes alongside our recording stations. The data comes into us in the form of signals, which we analyze on these machines.
Expected to monitor earthquakes around the clock, but are often unable to do so. From October to April, after a World Bank programme came to an end last year, the OVG was left with no internet for 6 months. The Congolese government was supposed to take over, but it wasn't until 1 month before the eruption that an American company restored the connection.
If we don't have the internet, how are we going to monitor the volcano? We would have to go to each station and collect the data manually, but there are many stations that we simply can't go to. We have around 15 of them. We even have a station in South Kivu in Bukavu, which is more than 100 kilometers away.
Internet outages are not the only hurdle the OVG's researchers face. Buildings are poorly maintained, as are these barely functioning vehicles gathering dust outside. Another example is this warning siren, a gift from the UN's peacekeeping force, which has been out of service for years. With such limited means, researchers also struggle to do basic fieldwork.
We're supposed to go out in the field every day, especially our technicians, but we can't do it regularly enough. Sometimes there's no money, you need fuel, you need all kinds of things.
More than 30 years after it was set up, the OVG still doesn't have proper funding. The observatory relies heavily on foreign partners for financing and equipment.
Today we have around 15 seismic stations, which is good, but obviously we'd like to have even more. In any case, compared to the previous eruption of 2002, at least now we have the capacity to gather reliable information.
In a memorandum sent to President Félix Tshisekedi a few days after the eruption, a union representative condemned the OVG's dependence on foreign partners, dubbing it a form of neo-colonialism. He also warned of widespread clientelism and corruption within the OVG, alleging that salaries as well as millions of euros in funding have been embezzled over the past decade.
The salaries of state employees were misappropriated. I can prove it. The OVG also received millions from the World Bank and the European Union, but the staff did not benefit from anything.
Under pressure from employees, the public prosecutor in Goma has opened an investigation, and the OVG's Director General was fired in January. The Congolese government, meanwhile, has promised additional financial support for the OVG, saying that nothing would ever be the same again. The latest eruption has indeed reminded everyone of the inescapable threat looming over Goma, a danger that comes not only from the volcano, but also from Lake Kivu, which stretches over 2,700 square kilometers, straddling the border between the DRC and Rwanda. These calm waters hold huge quantities of methane gas and carbon dioxide at a depth of about 60 meters. Charles Balagizi monitors the lake each week.
We know the concentration levels in the lake from our measurements before the eruption on the 22nd of May. Now we're doing the same measurements at the exact same spots, and we compare them to see if there are any variations.
If disasters of gas. Such a disaster occurred in 1986 at Lake Nyos in Cameroon. Flattening everything in its path, the blast killed more than 1,700 people who were asphyxiated in minutes. Researchers say Lake Kivu has the potential for a major catastrophe should there be a big enough trigger.
The lake has been stable so far, but there are triggers that could destabilize it. For example, if we had a huge earthquake with a magnitude above 6.5, it could be a risk for the lake.
A small portion of the lake is of more immediate concern for scientists. Here in the Gulf of Cabono, high concentrations of carbon dioxide are found just 15 meters below the surface. Even a small lava flow could trigger an explosion. This pilot extraction platform was installed in 2017 by a French scientist.
There's a pipe that pulls the water upwards towards the surface along with the gas. You see it there, the white pipe. And then another pipe pumps the water back into the lake at a depth of around 15 meters.
The Congolese government is set to invest €4 million to remove the gas from the Gulf of Cabono, and even though the extraction of carbon dioxide may not offer economic benefits, methane gas can be used to produce electricity. Rwanda has been at the forefront of such developments, launching its Kivu Watt program in 2015. In the DRC, the Congolese government has signed an agreement with a Tunisian company to build a power plant over the next decade. But no matter how fast authorities act, Goma will continue to live under the threat of a major disaster. Could it one day be wiped off the map entirely? And can anything be done to prevent it? This team of urban planners is looking at the feasibility of moving the city to Sake, 30 kilometers to the west.
We're measuring coordinates to make sure our maps are as precise as possible and to identify land that's already occupied. Because when you work on such a project, you want to avoid any disputes over compensation.
Experts recommend converting these pastures into 2 new urban centres, Sake 2 and Sake 3, to accommodate up to 400,000 people. It's a colossal project on which the government has yet to put a price tag. The aim is to relocate residents of districts closest to the volcano to ensure an easier evacuation in the event of an eruption.
In Goma, out of 18 districts, 13 have an average density of more than 2,200 people per hectare. We all saw what happened on the 22nd of May. People were evacuating through the same road. Instead of just 20 minutes, it took them 3 to 4 hours to get to safety.
Plans to move the city have been in the pipeline for years, and some would prefer them to never see the light of day. On the rugged slopes of Mount Nyiragongo, locals are not ready to leave. For the Mwami, the area's traditional chief, the population has learned to live with its troublesome neighbour.
Locals have a sacred relationship, an almost godly relationship with the land, because traditionally when someone is born here, we bury their umbilical cord in the ground. This land is all we have. This is our home. Where else can we go?
After every eruption, the Mwami and his people painstakingly rebuild their lives on the solidified lava, and the aftermath of this eruption will be no exception.
Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith.
All the latest in politics, economics and the arts in Africa on France 24. Our journalists are in every region, every country, to report on the emergence of a continent of unparalleled riches. Bringing you Africa's stories on France 24.
Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.
Liberté, égalité, actualité. France 24 brings you all the news from hotspots around the world. In Africa, France. Asia, the Middle East, and the Americas. From Europe to Oceania, take a daily trip across borders to keep abreast of all the latest international news. Get exclusive updates from our correspondents around the globe. Our daily reports will take you to all four corners of the world. Every day, watch World.
This year, Sanremo, the famous city of flowers on the Italian Riviera, hosts the start of the 2021 Rolex Giralia yacht race. After the event's 1 year enforced absence, everyone is delighted to be back on the water. And the 68th edition of the Mediterranean's premier offshore yachting classic is one to savour. Sanremo has had a long relationship with the Giralia, and is the ideal replacement for the French town of Saint-Tropez, which usually holds the start but is unable to due to COVID. Between 1954 and 1994, the offshore race began here 22 times. Beppe Zaoli has been chairman of the Yacht Club Sanremo for the past 18 years, and he's a veteran of this classic race.
Io ne ho fatte tantissime giraglie, non mi ricordo neanche più quante a cui ho partecipato. Il fatto che quest'anno la regata parta da Sanremo per noi è un grandissimo onore in questo momento difficile. La giraglia rappresenta per il nostro club il clou dell'anno delle manifestazioni. Qui da noi sono passati tutti i più grandi velisti e questo è servito molto per far crescere sia la storia del nostro circolo, ma far crescere anche tantissimo l'interesse sui nostri ragazzi dal mondo della vela.
The life of Beppe's son Andrea is also inextricably linked to the Giralia.
Mio padre è quello che mi ha insegnato praticamente tutto in mare e in barcavela. Io ho fatto le prime regate con lui e mi portava già da piccolissimo. La prima giraglia l'ho fatto che avevo 14-15 anni. Adesso ne ho 34, non ne ho saltata praticamente nessuna di giraglia. Ne abbiamo fatte tante insieme, alcune come avversari. Diciamo che appunto mio papà è sempre stato il fulcro della mia passione.
This year, the Zaolis are racing together. And while Beppe has won the overall Giralia title before, success remains elusive for Andrea.
Ovviamente per me ogni giraglia la corro per vincere, per andare bene. Non è sempre così ovviamente, ci sono tanti fattori, una regata difficile. Ci sono alcune barche che magari sulla carta sono che è più facile vincere con queste barche, poi in realtà il meteo ti cambia tutto e devi continuamente lottare.
For 2021, there is a change in course. From Italy's Sanremo, the yachts pass two marks, one in Ventimiglia and the other off the coast of France at the Rade d'Agay, before bearing left to the all-important Giralia Rock off Corsica. Once that famous landmark is rounded, the yachts head for the finish line in Genoa and the Yacht Club Italiano, completing 241 nautical miles.
Stop!
138 yachts make up an impressive international fleet in Sanremo for this Rolex Giralia. As is custom, there are 3 starts, depending on the size of your boat. The Zaolis on Swan 45 Ange Transparent 2, setting sail in the second group. The beginning of an offshore race is always spectacular. especially when conditions are offering 12 knots of breeze downwind to go with brilliant sunshine. Out in front, in the race to be the first to Genoa, there is an intriguing matchup between three 100-footers. Two-time former Giralia Line Honours winner Magic Carpet Cubed faces a new adversary in the Maxi Arca, whilst former Rolex Fastnet record holder Far 100 Leopard 3 completes the trio. It is tight all along the Italian and French coasts, but it's Arca that rounds the new mark at Rad d'Agay with the advantage ahead of Magic Carpet Cubed and then Leopard 3. Arca's story begins on the other side of the world in Australia. Launched as a 98-footer called Scandia in 2003, she was Australia's largest ever maxi at the time, and was one of the first yachts to boast a canting keel for stability. It was built for one reason only, for its skipper Grant Warrington to realise his ultimate dream of winning line honours at the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. In their first attempt in 2003, Warrington and Scandia achieved this. But from then on, it was not plain sailing. In the Sydney Hobart a year later, Scandia was abandoned at sea, and the crew had to be rescued from the notorious Bass Strait. Despite various reinventions, Scandia and Warrington never again reached the heights of 2003. And sometime after 2012, the Maxi disappeared.
Arca, qua dietro a noi, è l'ex Scandia, è un'imbarcazione che nel 2003, dopo tanti anni, sono riuscito a recuperarla sull'isola di Minorca, dove era abbandonata lì da 5 anni. Noi lo chiamiamo un vaso di fiori, perché era messa su un piazzale abbandonata. Quindi abbiamo cambiato completamente tutto l'impianto idraulico, abbiamo montato un secondo timone a prua che però non è proprio un timone, è un lifting canard, quindi si riesce a usare anche nelle andature portanti eliminando il drag. Quindi la barca oggi è una barca completamente diversa, è ancora work in progress perché cambieremo ancora tante cose nelle nostre idee, probabilmente alla prossima Giraglia vedrete una barca ancora diversa. E oggi siamo orgogliosi di avere la barca qui a competere per la Giraglia, che per noi è un grandissimo evento e ci teniamo molto.
A work in progress Arca may be, but skipper Furio Benussi's now 100-footer is still a born racer. At 7 a.m. of day 2, the all-Italian crew from Trieste reached the Giralia Rock, after which this famous race is named, in first place. 15 minutes behind them is Magic Carpet Cubed, who have pushed Arca all the way upwind on the leg from the Rad d'Agay to the Giralia. While on the same section, Leopard 3 has hit a small depression and has dropped off. New owner Joost Scalf and his team face a real fight to stay in touch. The line honours race between these 100-footers will come down to the home leg, and the promise of virtually no wind near Genoa means the result remains up in the air. Further back, this is the amateur crew of Skrika, a Comet 38S recently bought by Mario Rosso, who is an expert rower intending to become a trophy-winning yachtsman.
Io ho preso la barca per vincere o comunque per arrivare a essere competitivo e ci stiamo riuscendo. Io da giovane facevo parte della nazionale di canottaggio e la cosa che trovo molto diversa fra la vela e il canottaggio è che nel canottaggio si parte, chi arriva prima ha vinto, nella vela invece si arriva e non si sa mai chi ha vinto finché non tutti sono arrivati perché ci sono le compensazioni.
This is Mario's debut classic offshore yacht race. For Skrika to win her ORC division on handicap first time would be some ask, and the scenery on the opening leg helps to dilute his competitive spirit.
Stasera è uno spettacolo, viaggiare con questo mare, poi proprio queste sono condizioni ideali, perché non c'è onda, la barca è piatta, cammina, bellissimo.
E ti fa stare sereno.
Questo effettivamente sì, è uno dei grandi valori aggiunti della vela. E poi anche, vabbè, ora stasera è sera, quindi non è che vediamo delle luci, però effettivamente ti permette anche di vedere da prospettive diverse la costa, le città, le baie, e anche se si è regata si apprezza, ecco, si apprezza comunque la bellezza del navigare. L'unica cosa è che se non c'è vento invece sei fermo, questo purtroppo è l'aspetto negativo della vela, però non si può avere tutto. Ci vorrebbe un mix, una barca a vela che ogni tanto tiri fuori i remi.
The Juralia is well known for its wind shifts, and there is plenty of breeze for Mario en route to the rock. Overnight and into day 2, the crew struggles with its sail changes while beating up wind for an exhausting 20 hours. They lose time, and Mario is delighted to see the Juralia, not least because it means a change in the conditions.
Molto impegnativa, specialmente l'ultimo tratto dove abbiamo dovuto fare 3 cambi vele e noi abbiamo i garrocci, non siamo molto pratici, però si sono comportati tutti molto bene. Siamo arrivati alla Juralia, abbiamo circa un'ora di ritardo rispetto alla nostra tabella di marcia dovuta a questi cambi vele, ma comunque sono molto contento. Salute! Salute! Alla Juralia!
Back to the front runners and the battle for line honours. Leopard falls out of contention, as heading to Genoa, it's Arca who retains her lead, enjoying the downwind conditions she was made for. The revamped 100-footer is a lighter and purer racer than the Maxi Cruiser Magic Carpet Cubed. Furio Benussi knows he needs a lead to prevent a late twist, as his rival will take advantage of any drop in wind. As the Italian coast beckons, inevitably the lull comes, and Arca turns west to try and stave off any inroads from her pursuer. Magic Carpet Cubed begins to catch up, but runs out of racetrack. The Italians complete the victory, and 18 years after Scandia won the Rolex Sydney Hobart, Arca wins the Juralia by 17 minutes, in 26 hours, 8 minutes and 10 seconds. Furio adds line honours to the 2 overall victories he has won previously on other yachts in this race.
E oggi essere qui e vincere questa regata è una cosa incredibile. Arrivare qua e sentire l'affetto del pubblico, che tagli per primo il traguardo, non ha paragoni, per cui siamo felici di aver fatto questa impresa e di entrare nell'albo d'oro della Juralia come lei nota.
To be so close to beating a pure racing, much modified, one of the fastest 100-footers in the world in Arca, I think that was very nearly a big thing. Frankly, we were all just so happy to be back on the water and racing together.
Father and son duo Beppe and Andrea Zeoli don't just sail together, they also work side by side in the family business.
Mia madre e mio padre a cominciare a fare le prime vele in garage e da lì hanno cominciato a prendere sempre più clienti ed è aumentato sempre di più fino ad arrivare ai giorni nostri qua, che facciamo vele per praticamente tutte le barche. Questa è una vela molto speciale per noi. È una vela della classe 470 che ha vinto le Olimpiadi a Rio nel 2016 con l'equipaggio croato. È stata la nostra prima medaglia d'oro alle Olimpiadi, spero la prima delle tante. Sicuramente lavorare in veleria ti aiuta a comprendere meglio come funziona una vela, come regolarla, quali sono i carichi massimi che può avere. Per me è molto importante tenere sempre il rapporto col mare per poi trasmetterlo in veleria, come ha fatto mio padre per tutti questi anni.
La mia vita è sempre stata sul mare e hai poco tempo quando sei sul mare di stare insieme ai tuoi. Lavorando insieme ci vivi normalmente, passi una vita molto diversa dagli altri ed è veramente simpatico e molto interessante.
The yachts still left on the water are reveling in the chance to compete in ocean racing again, fighting for every marginal gain. The winner on handicap is as unpredictable as the wind shifts that define every Giralia. Each yacht is kept interested. At various stages, the Zaolis in Ange Transparent 2 are ahead in the standings, tantalising Andrea as he seeks that first win. But in the final analysis, the conditions don't go their way, and they finish in 10th place in IRC on corrected time. Meanwhile, those downwind conditions after the Giralia Rock cause Mario Rosso's mostly amateur crew on Skrika some trouble.
Abbiamo avuto un problema al Genaker che è scoppiato, abbiamo usato il Coziro, che non è esattamente la via ideale, ma comunque stiamo andando bene. Puntiamo sulla notte tranquilla e l'arrivo a Genova, pensiamo in mattinata. Al momento a Genova c'è pochissimo vento e questo potrebbe essere un problema.
Nearing Genoa on the second morning, Skrika inches her way home. The tiredness on board is self-evident, but it's a sterling effort from Mario and his team. This is just the beginning of a long offshore life for him and Skrika. After 2 days and 7 hours, she finishes a creditable 5th in the RC class.
Bravi ragazzi, siamo arrivati.
Oh, ma non hanno
È stata molto impegnativa, sia dal punto di vista fisico e anche psicologico. Adesso questo arrivo, purtroppo tanti cambi di vento ci hanno un po' penalizzato, però siamo contenti e l'equipaggio ha lavorato bene.
Vera Kuznetsova is a student at Italy's famous Polymoda fashion school. For her final year coursework, she has designed a red dress, which is proudly emblazoned on the yacht Intuition, on which she is doing her first offshore race.
Sartoria Vera – это фэшн-бренд, который я хочу развивать. Это индивидуальное изготовление трикотажной одежды. И в какой-то момент я обратила внимание, что трикотаж и морское дело в каких-то частях очень связаны между собой, поскольку оба они требуют серьезной подготовки, прежде чем вы увидите какой-то результат.
For her Giralia debut, Vera has put together an all-female Russian team on Intuition, with the help of crewmate Yulia Fadeva, who runs UK-based yachting school Capstan Sailing.
One of the ladies, she's done already 4 Giralia Rolex race. Yeah, another crew member, our first mate, she's done 3 Rolex Middle Sea race, 1 Royal Caribbean. So we're quite experienced ladies. We expect to do very well. We are very good together, so everything is in working order.
Intuition's skipper is Tatiana Lartseva, a former snipe world champion and a coach for the Russian Olympic team. Tatiana has always wanted to try her hand at offshore racing, and where better to start than at the Juralia.
It's something new for me. It's first of my offshore, and it's small experience for me, for myself. And another girls, it's my friends, and I think it will be fun.
Our skipper is absolutely amazing lady. She's very calm, she's very quiet, but her gentle, soft power really works. So it's the best crew to be. It's our crew, I think.
Led expertly by Tatiana, this multifaceted crew that also includes an astrologer and a former banker navigates the 241 nautical miles without drama. Intuition finishes 13th out of 24 in the IRC2 division, arriving in Genoa after 2 days and 16 hours. And as is sometimes the case with yachting, it hasn't been as easy as it looks.
Это смешанные чувства. Я испытываю большой восторг от того, что мы дошли. Я испытывала большой страх, когда мы шли ночью. У нас было 2 ночи с супер страшными волнами. На моей памяти пока самое сложное испытание, которое мне довелось пережить.
She was absolutely amazing. She was a proper super trooper. Do you know, I'm going to take her on all our next offshore racing. I think on Fastnet I'm going to take her personally.
Intuition finishes in front of the historic Yacht Club Italiano, and everyone can celebrate a successful 2021 Juralia, organised against the odds. Furio Benussi picks up the Line Honours trophy. It promises to be the first of many chapters in the story of Arca, a yacht reborn. And suitably for a race that was conceived by the French and the Italians, it is a skipper from France that collects the overall trophy, Jean-Claude André, winning with his yacht Imagine. This particular race has been imbued with a spirit of endeavour, resilience and renaissance. And while the race start returns to Saint-Tropez next year, the Zaolis will always be able to look back on this one-off San Remo to Genoa classic with pride, as the Rolex Juralia perpetuates the passion of sailing from generation to generation.
Allora, è stata una grande emozione questa regata, perché dopo tutto questo anno difficile ricominciare con una regata come la Juralia.
Navigare in casa, partire da Sanremo, fare tutto insieme dopo quest'anno difficile è stato bello, molto emozionante.
Next on Spirit of Yachting, SailGP Season 2, the fastest racing series in sailing, is back.
Right.
The National Coronavirus Command Council has decided to enforce a nationwide lockdown.
I want to punch you right in your dumb face right now.
We want to fight bad guys. It defines who I am.
I'm gonna have to get dirty.
Oh, no, that's personal. Come on, honey, let's just keep it fun. Thought we were in trouble there for a second, but it's fine. We're fine.
There's no, like, real magic in the world, right?
What do you mean? Snowy, look at this.
When I wake up in the morning, love.
This way?
Hey, look, if I was drunk, would I be able to do this?
What an outfit. Thank you. I thought it might be too much.
Are you gonna walk me home or what?
Good question. Wrong answer. She's right there. You're not gonna do anything?
What are you, an idiot?
Don't call me an idiot, Dixon.
I didn't call you an idiot. I asked if you was an idiot.
This is breaking and entering.
We haven't broken anything.
Well, that's just great. Oh, what a day. What a lovely day.
It's actually quite good fun.
Yes. That's it. We've run out of options. Just pretend to be dead. I'll be here.
Oh my God, please help me.
You know this is pathetic, right? I'm just going round and round in circles.
Take your hands off my lobby boy!
Have you lost your mind? No, ma'am. But you about to.
Season's greetings from the Volvo Ocean Race Fleet. It was a Christmas spent at sea for our intrepid racers. Some entered into the festive spirit with gusto, while others preferred to focus all their efforts on the chase for Leg 2 glory. All of Team Telefonica's energy was concentrated on hunting down the leg leaders, Camper, whom they had firmly in their sights. Both the Spaniards and Groupama's Christmas celebrations were low-key, whilst Santa managed to find the other boats in the middle of the Indian Ocean and deliver some festive cheer.
I got a beautiful Christmas card for my daughters. Merry Christmas. Hope you like the present. We all miss you very much. Lots of love, Amelia and Zoe. Love you lots of love.
Almost exactly at midnight, we had this ripping 40-knot squall come through and just knock our socks off for a little while. And this is our Christmas. This is our family on board the boat. And from all of us on board Mar Nostro to all of you out there, we wish you the healthiest and happiest Christmas and Christmas holidays and New Year's.
The start of this edition of the Volvo Ocean Race provided more drama than any other in the event's history, testing morale, teamwork and patience to breaking point. As the challenges mounted, the personality of each crew shone through, and this is the story so far. Team Telefonica's report card was graded A+. The Spaniards were the only team to produce a flawless performance. The key to their success? Single-mindedness and confidence, and a canny, if modest, navigator in the shape of Australian Andrew Cape.
You've got to have a plan which can be quite changeable, fluid, as they say. And that does evolve all the time. And picking every forecast we get, which is really every 12 hours, we analyse that quite in detail. I think we maybe just got out of the Mer past Gibraltar that, we'd be able to map sort of a plan. And, pretty much once I had the thoughts in my mind and ways to get out of any problems, and we just set on our own course. We didn't actually look or care where the rest of the fleet went. We were just looking purely at defending the weather and getting there the fastest we could. And where the fleet goes doesn't really worry us.
And Telefonica was indeed the fastest, and the first boat home to Cape Town docking to a rapturous welcome. The remainder of the fleet did not fare quite as well. Led by French multi-hull hero Frank Camas, the team aboard Groupama was licking their wounds after leg one when a bold tactical call to strike out on their own early backfired. The move highlighted the risks the French team take versus their more tactically conservative competitors, and despite the negative outcome, Camas remained philosophical heading into leg two.
Everybody was prepared because I didn't withhold anything from the crew. We knew that we were heading off in that way, and it was really exciting to be taking an option which we believed in, and if it worked, it would be the jackpot. It's true that the options you take at sea are the key to the race, and you have to have confidence in what you're doing, but sometimes that's the game. My feeling is that the race hadn't really started like we'd imagined it would, since the first leg didn't turn out like a real race. So I hope that it's going to happen on the second leg, and that we arrive in Abu Dhabi within sight of each other, and that we fight like cats and dogs during 3 weeks. That's what we're after, to bring the racing back to its high-octane form over the next leg. We're impatient to get going on the next leg.
Bang! Biggest bang you've ever heard in your life. 5 years. When that thing fell in the water, I was just mad. And that's all I kept saying to myself is 5 years to get to this point. We got the horse, we got the boat, we got the crew. We're nip and tuck, We could be competitive in this race. And bang, that bang. Ugh, that bang.
Puma Ocean Racing was a genuine contender for Leg 1 glory until disaster struck in the South Atlantic. Worst possible place, worst possible time, and the start of an amazing adventure.
We really couldn't have chosen a much worse spot. The closest point of land was South America. Do we really want to go backwards? Are we gonna get to Cape Town in time if we go backwards? And we found Tristan. Skyline Airport, we'll have two options. You know, we'll just get a ton of food and we'll keep going, or you know, we can fly home, we can get some rest. No, we choose. I mean, you get on Tristan, and this is no lie, you get on Tristan, and there's a sign right there that says the remotest, and I'm not even sure this is a word, remotest, the remotest place on Earth.
With a huge logistical rescue operation underway, coordinated by the shore team in Cape Town, there was nothing for the Puma crew to do but experience everything that Tristan da Cunha had to offer.
There's a head of tourism, and I sat down with the tourism group and we mapped out, I said, I want my guys to be busy from the moment until the moment we leave, because we just got to stop. We got to stop thinking about the race.
Walking up to my ball here, we've got, let's say, about 100 yards to go, but some cow hazards to deal with.
That's how playing golf, climbing the mountain, doing hikes.
Does this mean we get to go down?
Hope so.
It's a male and a female? I don't know, apparently it's really hard to tell.
Touring the lobster factory, that was fascinating.
This is the economic driver of this island. Is this bad boy right here?
Just grab him, I guess. Yeah.
This is where they kill all of us. They're not going to kill us. They're actually letting us eat. They're actually feeding us.
Then we spoke to half the town, came out to the hall one night, and they have a little hall that they do functions at. And we showed videos and kind of talked about what we do, you know, and I think they appreciated us working to give back something as well. We weren't just there to take, we were there to try to give back as well. And I think that's probably why we got along so well.
After 6 days on Tristan da Cunha, help finally arrived in the shape of container ship Team Bremen. But the drama wasn't over. There was still one tricky maneuver for the Puma crew to undertake.
We had to keep the boats apart, yet close enough together. The communication with the guy on the crane had to be spot on. And then Chris, of course, he's the guy who always talks to the crane operators, right? So he's got all the lingo and all this and that, and the other thing, all the hands stuff going. And I'm like, Chris, when you're gonna see the boats on the swell, when this boat goes down, you just send it. What we weren't expecting was, once the boat got out of the water on the crane, how out of control it would be. And it wasn't until we got a 4.5 spring line on the boat was it semi under control. And then once we did that, we got all 6 lines bone tight. We eased it into the cradle and like, okay, done.
The weather cooperated, which is, I mean, look at the weather. This is just a miracle. The locals are like, you guys are so lucky, it's incredible. And hey, everybody put it together. No damage that we know of at all. And now we just have to go 1,200 miles, piece of cake.
Finally, the crew and yacht were on their way to Cape Town, and Puma's amazing adventure was done. As for the skipper, well, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, saying that, yeah, I do. I regret every moment of saying that I wanted to make this race into more of an adventure. But I didn't say I want to make it into more of an adventure. I said I want to enjoy the adventure more this time. Really, I said make it into an adventure. It's one of my personal goals in this race is to make it an adventure. Can we just find some middle ground, please? Please, I'm begging you. Just some halfway in between. We don't need to find, you know, another Gilligan's Island. We don't need to. We need to stay in one piece. We need to talk about boat racing for a while. That's my goal on this next leg. Nice, easy leg. Easy.
Arriving as deck cargo on a ship is an ignominious way for any team to arrive at the first port of call. But with her bow section torn to pieces in leg one after hitting a submerged object during a torrid first night at sea, it was Team Sanya's only way to stay in the race.
There's no doubt in my mind that we landed on something sharp. It's amazing how quickly the water came in.
Lucky not to sink, it was a devastating start to an already challenged Chinese program. A late entry, they're campaigning a boat built for the last edition of the race, meaning they'd have to survive on wits and guile rather than rely purely on boat speed.
This campaign's about trying to be opportunistic, trying to be the one that can cut corners tactically, trying to, you know, steal the odd podium position in an import race or a leg or whatever. So for me, it was just disappointment. Who knows? We could have been on the podium if we'd managed to just, you know, be 3 meters further one side or the other as we were going through the med there.
The Sanya team arrived in Cape Town, locked in a desperate race against time to replace a 4-meter section of the yacht's bow in order to make the leg 2 start to Abu Dhabi. With the repair out of his hands, Sanderson turned his attention to his race crew. Having missed 3 grueling but important conditioning weeks at sea, he made the most of Cape Town's topography, setting his sailing team a much-needed fitness challenge. All the while, the Sanya Shore team continued to attack the complex repair, working around the clock to replace the shattered bow, putting the Chinese team back in the race, poised once again to be the cat amongst the pigeons.
The guys have done an absolutely fantastic job. They've worked long hours. We're certainly not out of the overall race. Sure, we had a little hiccup in the first leg, but we're going to get out there and give it our best and no holding back.
Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand looked strong early on, leading the fleet out of the Straits of Gibraltar, but one moment of indecision would cost them dearly.
Should shift here, round to the right, then we'll probably do a quick tack and then wriggle our way a little southwest. Got a lot to catch up. The guys are sort of 40 miles in front. When we were parked up last night, they were out here moving west, so a lot to do actually. Not happy.
However, Lady Luck appeared to be on the Kiwis' side. When Puma dropped their mast, Camper was sure of second place in the leg. But there was a sting in the tail for the Camper crew. During a sail change in the South Atlantic, Mike Paminter was washed down the foredeck and into the shrouds. The South African sustained a broken tooth, a gashed lip, and bumps and bruises. Patched up on board, on arrival in Cape Town, the priority for Paminter, after celebrations from the hometown boy, was professional medical treatment.
Yes! Happy to be home. Good. Lots of friends and family. And a dentist.
It's been a while since I've been to a hospital and a dentist for any sort of major operation or surgery, so a little bit nervous, but it should be good. So basically, we're not going to complete the entire operation today. So what they'll do is they'll put in the first part of the insert and then and let that heal in. And then when I get to New Zealand, they'll put the second part of the insert in and the remaining tooth. So normally when you get into port, you sort of get 4 or 5 days off as the sailors to just go away and spend time with friends and family and rest and recover. But fortunately, I'll spend most of my time looking after the dental appointments and surgeon appointments. But it's part of the game, and unfortunately it happened. But it's good that after today it'll be closed. Please have a seat.
Basically, what happened, the tooth was basically lost at sea. The top part of the tooth broke off. So what we're going to do is we'll remove the tooth, and then we may do a hard and soft tissue augmentation of the area as well. I will basically harvest some of the bone in the area, and then I may also take a small piece of gum from his palate and I will transplant it over to the area so that it gets a natural looking result in the area. You feel a little bit of pressure when I put it in? Yeah. Combination of stitches, dissolving and non-dissolving ones. And next time when he comes for his follow-up appointment, I'll show the medical officer how to do it.
Well, it's up there on the pain barrier, that's for sure. I mean, basically they just drilled straight into the bone. That wasn't the problem. The problem was when they put in the insert, it expanded the bone. Oh my god, I don't know. It's painful.
Abu Dhabi's entrant Azam couldn't be more aptly named. Translated from Arabic, Azam means determined, and Ian Walker's team will need every ounce of resolve they can muster if they're to recover a leg one body blow, being dismasted just 6 hours into the race.
I don't know how many times we must have said you can't win the race on the first night, but you can lose it. But it was a real shock when the mast broke. It was all gone. How could this have happened? Total and utter disbelief, and then an empty feeling.
Leg one from Alicante to Cape Town should have revealed just where Walker and his Abu Dhabi team stand. But the dismasting and their subsequent decision to retire and ship their yacht to Cape Town means they and their competitors remain unclear about Azam's potential.
This is a test for us to bounce back from this and recover our confidence, recover our composure really as a group, and then and move forward from here. And time will tell how successful we are at that. Yeah, it's going to be a nervous first week for us.
Prior to embarking upon leg two, talk of weather routing, sail choice and strategy gave way to the much more serious subject of piracy in the Indian Ocean and the very real threat it poses to the Volvo Ocean race fleet. A direct route between Cape Town and Abu Dhabi would take the competitors directly past Somalia, where sometimes violent attacks on shipping have escalated since 2008, regardless of international countermeasures.
The Volvo Ocean race is going into new territories, and the area of the Indian Ocean is subject to Somali piracy. The threat that they face on leg two is specifically hijack for ransom from Somali gangs.
Piracy is a crime of opportunity. It is not about targeting vessels.
There is hijack for ransom specifically in the Indian Ocean. In the Malacca Straits they face what we call smash and grab robbery, and that tends to be pretty violent.
Where all the pirates are dispersed throughout the boat, no heroics. Really no heroics.
The threat is absolutely real. The probability is low, but the impact is extraordinarily high.
Put your hands in the air and do exactly as they tell you. They're unlikely to harm any member of the crew because you cannot ransom a dead body.
To minimise the threat, the Volvo Ocean race organisers announced their plan to help shield the fleet, implementing exclusion zones and adopting a communication stealth mode to protect the yacht's positions at sea.
It is a difficult area to understand and what the logic would be in a pirate taking one of our boats, and if they're thinking it through, then maybe they can see several ways that eventually they'll get some money out of this. There's the hostage thing. Obviously you see 11 people on board, you think, well, there's 11 families that care about these people. You see the branding on the sails, you think possibly the company is interested in paying some money, so if we did understand it, maybe we could control it.
But most significantly, the race organisers revealed their intention to break leg two at a safe haven port in the Indian Ocean, where they'll load the race yachts onto a ship and transport them to the Northern Emirates before restarting the fleet for a day-long sprint finish into Abu Dhabi. The points weighted accordingly.
I've always welcomed that decision for us to go on a ship. It adds obviously burden in terms of cost, time, and just difficult logistics. But you know, like we need to do it.
The Volvo race is tough enough as it is without having people that are out there trying to board the boat and hold you ransom. So no, it is a concern, and we have to just take it very seriously.
And so if we had have sailed up to Abu Dhabi direct, when you look at the amount of attacks that there's been in the region, there was a pretty high chance that there was going to be some sort of interaction.
We think the solution we've come up with maintains the integrity of the race, and all the government departments, all of the advisors that we've had have said that we've done exactly the right thing. If we can achieve a plan we want, the results will be there for people to see.
After a hectic stopover in Cape Town, the first night of Leg 2 was spent inching along the coast in little or no breeze. Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing led the fleet away, but were the first to fall into the windless zone.
Oh, we're absolutely flying along. Left Cape Town, Chait, and parked. Everybody's come back up to us, so we probably shouldn't have bothered.
At this stage, we might be having Christmas in Africa.
Even leaders Team Telefonica were forced to take extreme measures.
The winds died, got progressively less and less overnight, and coming to this headland we found more and more current. And in fact we got to a stage where we were going backwards, so it's better to put the anchor down and stay where we are rather than go backwards.
As the fleet clawed its way up the South African coast towards Port Elizabeth, it was literally all hands on deck, tacking and stacking and changing sails as the boats picked their way through the minefield of wind holes and adverse currents close to the shoreline.
I don't think any of us got hardly any sleep last night. I think maybe the most amongst the whole crew was 2 hours, so everybody's very, very tired at the moment.
Here we go, we're off again now. Everyone on please. New wind direction. Be the end of all this mess.
Having safely negotiated passage across the Agulhas current, strong winds and rain squalls from an unstable trough created a second start line, with all 6 boats getting the chance to start over. Living up to their reputation as the risk-takers, Groupama was the first to make their move, opting to split from the rest of the fleet on a southeasterly angle that saw them accelerate away from their rivals, but also from the finish line. By the end of their maneuver, they were further from their destination than when they started the leg in Cape Town, but in a strong position. The following day, Sanya also left the fold, heading north towards Madagascar and an emerging tropical storm system.
All the fleet is gathered together, just compressed behind a slow-moving cold front that we couldn't get through. So in the end, we decided to do what the boss told us to do a little shortcut to the north.
For the gamble to pay off, Sanderson needed the intense low-pressure system to move east, allowing Sanya to thread the needle between the storm and Madagascar and take the lead. But their delight was short-lived.
Yeah, well, it's all a bit disappointing and sad here on the Team Sanya boat. We had just pretty much broken through the low-pressure system, and we were very excited about the fact that the breeze was going right, and we were going for a sail change, and I looked up in there, the D2, the piece of rigging that comes from the mast to the bottom spreader was flapping in the wind, and unfortunately that's the end of our race.
Heartbreak for Sanya as they relinquished their lead and headed for Madagascar to make repairs to their mast, while the rest of the fleet raced on to the safe haven port in the Indian Ocean, where their chauffeur awaited. First to arrive yet again was Team Telefonica, but only just. Less than 2 minutes separated them from Camper after an almighty tussle over the last 8 miles, with both boats claiming and then relinquishing the lead. The delight on board the Spanish boat was clear for all to see as they increased their lead at the top of the Volvo Ocean Race leaderboard. Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand had led for much of the leg, but were powerless to prevent the Spanish victory. The Kiwis magnanimous in defeat, although obviously disappointed. Puma Ocean Racing arrived in 3rd position, with Groupama a further 2 hours behind them in 4th. Once again, the French team's gamble had failed to pay off. With Team Sanya marooned in Madagascar, the last boat in was Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing, who had held the lead no fewer than 5 times during Leg 2, but got stuck fast in the doldrums. With all 5 boats docked at the safe haven, It was time for them to be lifted onto their transporter. Hearts were in mouths as the multi-million-dollar racing machines were hoisted 40 feet onto the container vessel. With precious cargo safely strapped into place, it was time for the fleet to head out to sea and towards the Northern Emirates, ready for the final sprint into Abu Dhabi. Join us next time as the Volvo Ocean Race, Leg 2, reaches its climax.
December 14th, 1799. George Washington, the Revolutionary War general who became America's first president, dies at his Mount Vernon estate in Virginia at age 67. 1911, Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen and his group become the first men to reach the South Pole. They beat out a rival expedition led by Robert F. Scott by more than a month. 1995, in Paris, leaders of Bosnia, Serbia, and Croatia sign an internationally brokered peace treaty. That move formally ends more than 3.5 years of bloodshed in the Balkans. And 1985.
Fastball hit deep to right. This could be it. Way back there. Holy cow,
Baseball's Roger Maris, whose single-season home run record lasted more than 35 years, dies in Houston at age 51. Today in history, December 14th. Sandy Kozel, The Associated Press.
Engine goes positive platform driver change. Copy, now.
In order to put this stylish new vehicle through its paces, I brought it to the legendary Swartberg Pass. And boy, am I looking forward to this adventure. What impresses me the most about the new design is the aggressive grille. This paired together with the 4 LED projector headlamps and the signature daytime running lights gives this vehicle a lot of presence. With the vehicle's new improved ride height, not only will it look good in the city, but it's going to perform a lot better over the rough stuff. So the vehicle now has a new 2.5 turbo diesel engine, and while the output is the same as previous generations, the delivery of that power is so much better. The vehicles are produced in both 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive options, and with a transmission either available in automatic 7-speed or manual 6-speed transmission. My personal preference is the 4-wheel drive together with the 7-speed automatic gearbox, as this combination really just feels like a marriage made in heaven. The ride comfort in this vehicle is absolutely first class, and that's a result of the NASA-inspired seats as well as the upgraded 5-link coil suspension. The much improved rear suspension of the car allows for better handling as well as traction, and that's both in on-road and off-road conditions. This car comes with traction control, which from a safety perspective is critical, because when in slippery or wet conditions, traction becomes everything. Another cool feature is downhill assist, which basically gives any driver, irrelevant of their experience levels, much needed confidence when taking on those steep downhill obstacles. The innovation and design didn't stop with just the front of this vehicle. Nissan have increased the load capacity of their bin. They've retained their utility tracks and 12-volt charging socket. They've included a very light and practical tailgate, together with a functional reverse camera and a beautifully designed new bumper. From the first time I climbed into this Nissan Navara, I've been impressed. For the Navara, it's a big step forward. The overall enhancements in the car, from a ride handling point of view, the power delivery, it's just really next level. For the consumer in South Africa that's looking for a utility vehicle, this honestly has to be one of the best packages available. The new Nissan Navara. After my 21 years and more than 100,000 kilometers of off-road racing, I can tell you that I'm seriously impressed. When Nissan talk to rugged and redefined, they've taken it to a completely new level in terms of both performance and design. But most importantly, the car has been built by Africans for Africans, taking both our environment and our lifestyle into account.
I see through the light, no more disguise. The scenery's crying.
Lekker Dirk! Yes! Woo! Pode buscar pra cima, mano. Tem que ter estúpido, né, não? Tem que estúpido. Je roste dag van zijn leven. Lekker dan! Bombermaster! Woehoe! Lekker Dirk! Nis! Manne man die
Thumbs up.
Oh my, ja, nou het hy weer goed gevat.
Ja, hy was hier in die gully.
Kom maar hoor. Ek het nog nooit 'n vis gehad wat so inkom en dan kyk hoe trek die stoom van die ding om. Kyk die stoom hierso. Wat sy mag gaan nou. Ja!
Swart pyl.
The National Coronavirus Command Council has decided to enforce a nationwide lockdown.
That's not what they really said.
You ready?
We'll see.
That's a yes or no question.
Yes.
Are you sure?
No.
Huh? What?
We got a guy.
Cool. Hit it. First things first. The rules are simple.
Hey, what's rule number 1?
Party?
No, not party.
Whoopsie, I forgot the seatbelt rule.
Oh, so she knows the rules?
I told her just a few of them. Well, now it's a party.
Awesome.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Let me give you some really good advice.
Spill it.
Smile and put on a happy face.
Okay, we've broken a lot of rules.
You guys want to party like rock stars.
You're all insane.
You having a good time? Yeah.
I can't stop the. 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 Nothing I can see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Feel good, good creeping up on you, so just dance, dance, dance. All those things I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance. Ain't nobody leaving, so keep dancing. Everybody say.
Sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
The number you have dialed has been changed.
back in our studio, and in today's news